look at these election results, and I think back to the old saying, all politics is local. Now, let me tell you, when I ran in Northwest Florida, people didn't care what was going on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. They cared what I was saying in Northwest Florida. That's going to happen in South Carolina. One, Mike Lawler tried to get involved in the Democratic primary last night. He failed in that swing district. They're going to be looking at a war hero. They're not going to be going, oh, Mamdani, he's a socialist. He doesn't like Israel. They're going to be looking at the two candidates that are in front of them and decide, do I want the war hero or do I want this guy that goes along with Trump too much?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, the bottom line is New York City is not America. And that's what we're seeing play out across the country. Because to your point, Joe,
well,
yes,
it's America,
last night in New York,
not.
3 Democratic socialists did prevail in some of these very heavily contested primaries. But at the end of the day, that is not America. Let's not forget, you just mentioned the Mike Lawler race. Kate Conley won the Democratic primary in that seat. That's New York 17. That is in the state of New York, not the city of New York City. But we are seeing some really strong national security candidates with some really strong backgrounds that in other places where, you know, you're not seeing this super progressive wing of the party take over the Democratic Party in that respective area, you're seeing those candidates prevail. So, look, Donnie's exactly right. Republicans are going to try to brand us as the Democratic Socialist Party. They're already doing that. They're going to say we're the party of Mamdani, we're the party of anti-Semitism. Those things are not true. You are seeing a very strong Mamdani coalition being built and endorsed and win in New York City. But that is New York City. It is a tiny part of America. That is not what you're seeing Democrats do across the country in other primaries.
It's a pretty big part of America, if I may.
Well, yes. I mean, it is the largest city in America, but it's not, you know,
Understood.
The heartland.
Let's bring into the conversation Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California. He's a member of both the House Armed Services and Oversight Committees. Congressman, thanks for being with us. Ton to ask you about, but let's just start with this conversation. Your thoughts on what happened in New York City last night, but also in places like South Carolina.
It was a great night. I mean, you have a new generation running, and put aside the labels. They're running saying the system is broken, that Donald Trump, the Republicans, and the status quo have allowed a few people to hoard extraordinary wealth. It's a lopsided economy. They can't afford to buy a house. They can't afford child care. They don't have a good job. And they're running to tackle income inequality. And that is a message that's going to resonate. And I am tired. I never want to hear a Republican lecture any Democrat about past statements. After all the statements that Donald Trump and MAGA have made that have been racist and xenophobic, the fact that some Democratic candidates may have had something in the past, they have no moral authority. This president is a lame duck. We're going to win with a new generation, and it's going to be a broad coalition.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you, Congressman, just about the Democratic Party and whether it is a Big Tent or not. I'm making the argument that you can go everywhere from having a Democratic socialist to wave in New York City, to having retired admirals, to having war heroes. And it is usually progressives that do most of the groundwork. So you want to have a mix of both. And like, for instance, in Iowa, the caucus goers have always been extraordinarily progressive. And then Joe Biden goes to South Carolina and he starts sweeping one contest after another. It's a big party, isn't it, that has a lot of different factions that if they work together, they win.
Joe, you're absolutely right. And at our best, with FDR or LBJ or Barack Obama, we had a very big coalition. I mean, I call myself a progressive Democrat, a progressive capitalist, and I endorsed 2 of the candidates for Congress who won last night. Claire, I endorsed. Brad Lander, I supported. But I've also supported Josh Turek in Iowa. I've supported Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey. I campaigned for Abigail Spanberger. And the reality is what unites the Democrats is we don't believe in foreign wars that are increasing prices. We don't believe we should be giving tax breaks to billionaires while people's health care is being taken away. We want to increase the living wage. We want to have an economics that works for the working class. And that broad message is something that the party is going to unify around, and we're going to win decisively in the House come November.
Congressman, we want to turn you now to the situation in Iran. You wrote a new piece, and I should highlight the venue for it. Fox News. Interesting. In which you make the case that the deal that President Trump is trying to make with Iran, and some specifics are still being worked out to be clear, is worse, in your words, than the JCPOA. Tell us why you made that argument and why you made the argument where you did.
Well, it is objectively worse. I mean, under the JCPOA, you had the force of IAEA intrusive inspections and the force of international law with the United Security Council. Now you don't have any intrusive inspections. Obama actually got the nuclear material out of Iran. Here you don't even have the material being destroyed or out of Iran. It's just being diluted. Most problematically, you are going to have Iran possibly continuing to charge a toll on the Strait of Hormuz, something never under Obama. So what this shows is tough diplomacy actually helps the United States, and it actually made Israel safer, and that Donald Trump has, through bravado, made the Middle East less safe and the United States less safe.
Congressman Khanna, you are challenging Elon Musk to a debate after the trillionaire called for you to be jailed. So in a recent interview, you said Musk needs to answer for potential deaths linked to the shuttering of the U.S. Agency for International Development after the sweeping cuts made by Doge, prompting Musk to respond with legal threats.
Okay, so that word potential does an awful lot there, Congressman, when in fact one study after another study shows that those sweeping cuts have led to hundreds of thousands of deaths possibly, and you project it out over the next 5-10 years, the numbers get really depressing really quick.
Well, I'm less concerned about Musk threatening to put me in jail, which he doesn't have the power to do, or sue me, and I'm more concerned that the world's richest person presided over cuts that hurt the world's poorest. I mean, you have two studies, the Lancet study that said that those cuts could have led to potentially 4.5 million children dying and 14 million children. And then you have a Boston study talking about the deaths that actually took place based on these cuts. But look, this is not someone who is unfamiliar to me. I've known him for over a decade. He blurbed one of my books. I've tried to give him the benefit of the doubt when he did Doge. But he is so consumed with his own wealth and power, he thinks he can intimidate me. I'm not going to be intimidated. He thinks he can silence us. The reality is, why is he lashing out? He sees the writing on the wall. He sees that the Democrats are going to be in charge. And now he's finally going to have to answer, because when we subpoena him, he's going to have to come before the committee and explain why he had those unconstitutional Doge cuts. And that's why the House elections matter. Finally, we're going to have accountability.